So today, I thought I would share kind of my story about how I got diagnosed or my journey. A lot of people call it your story or your journey, kind of a bit of both. Mine is kind of my story. I'll share how I got diagnosed, why my parents suspected that I had diabetes, and kind of definitely the first couple of months after getting diagnosed with diabetes, and then kind of where my family shifted to. So it all started back the middle of November of 2007. At that point, there was snow on the ground. I vividly remember being out on a hike and being extremely thirsty. And my mom, we didn't pack a ton of water, so she was telling me to eat like snow. And I vividly remember eating like so much snow. So that was kind of the first sign and symptom for me was I had to go to the bathroom all the time. I was getting up 6, 7, 8, 9 times during the night to go to the bathroom. I was drinking somewhere in the neighborhood, I think of like 8 to 10 liters of water a day. And I was 6, and I was basically skin and bones. I lost a lot of weight really, really quickly. So very shortly after that sort of happened, the signs were kind of happening for about a week, a little bit less than a week, probably more like 4 or 5 days. My mom called our family doctor, who is in Burlington, and so we had to drive down to Burlington. I got tested at his office. Basically, he just did a ketone test to see if I had diabetes or I had a problem with my ketones. For those who don't know, a ketone test is basically a urine test where you can test and it tells you a whole bunch of stuff. They're kind of cool and kind of fun to do sometimes. So he tested me, and then he looked at my mom and said, "You need to take her to the ER right now, and I'm calling ahead." So we left the doctor's office. We called my dad before we left. I remember that conversation to a part that my mom had with my dad, and it said, "I'm taking Em to the ER. I need you to meet me there so you can bring my siblings up," because my siblings were with me. We were homeschooled, which I'm really grateful for now. So you need to basically come get them so I can stay with Em. So we went to the hospital. Very quickly we got put in a room, and they very quickly triaged me. I do not remember what my number was. I wish I did. It was very high. I can tell you that right now. So they did that very quickly. From the time I got into the ER to the time I was in a room was less than 40 minutes. It was not long. And then my dad showed up, and then my siblings and my parents just kind of stayed. My dad was there. They did a lot of blood work, which I do not like. I hate getting blood work done. They did a lot of blood work. I don't remember them giving me insulin, ever. I don't remember them ever giving me insulin. The first insulin shot I remember, we are standing, we're leaving, and my mom had to give me one. They gave me two. My mom had to give me one, so that they knew my mom could give me insulin, and my dad had to give me one. So I was in the hospital for 3 days, 2 nights and 3 days. So my dad went home, took my siblings home, and then he spent the night at home with my siblings. My friends kind of picked up the pieces and took my siblings for the next day, so my dad could come back down. It's Saturday now. I got admitted on Friday night. So Saturday my dad came down, spent the entire day with me and my mom, and basically before he left, he went to our local library and did basically this to the entire shelf of books on diabetes and stuff, so my mom could read. My mom read, I don't even know how much. Like, she read every book she possibly could before I got released, and she asked 1,000 questions. And that's something I'm really, really grateful for, is my mom has this way of asking questions so she knows enough to talk in doctor information, so they don't sugarcoat it or they don't say anything, like they don't tell you everything sometimes. She always got everything. So there was a lot of training stuff I had to go through, a lot of well, more like my parents. I was 6. I had no idea what was going on, and I felt disgusting the entire weekend. I vividly remember feeling gross the entire weekend, and all I wanted to do was go home and go to bed in my own bed. Like, I just wanted to sleep in my own bed and not deal with anyone. The nurses would come in, like, I didn't sleep well. They came in every night, like every hour, almost on the hour, all night long for both nights that I was there, and I hated every minute of it. So I was relatively okay. Like, I was definitely struggling, but I was relatively okay. So I spent 2 days in the hospital, or 3 days in the hospital and 2 nights. So I was in there Friday night and Saturday night, and then Sunday rolled around. I got to go home late Sunday night, and I had all sorts of stuff. The doctors gave me a backpack to hold all my stuff. Like, they gave me kind of enough to get me through the thing. And then I remember the only reason I was able to go home on Sunday night was because we were going to a play in Burlington on Monday morning as a family, and so we were going to be back there Monday morning, so we had to come back to the hospital and check in, which was fine, and we did totally fine. So that was kind of the first sort of like really diabetes experience. I then spent the next almost 2 years going back to their clinic every 3 months. However, they were very much, it sounds really bad, but this is how it kind of came across, is diabetes is now going to be your life. It's going to run your life. You have to let it run your life. There's no if, buts. There's nothing. You have to let it run your life. My mom, doing the research she had done and asking questions and stuff, had figured out that it wasn't. So I distinctly remember my mom saying to me very shortly after I got diagnosed with diabetes, like within the first couple of days, going, this isn't going to run you, you're going to run it. And that is something I've held on to up until now, and I still hold on to. I still say, okay, yes, I have this disease. Some days it's awful. Some days all I want to do is curl up in the corner and not do anything and cry. But there are days where I'm like, I'm letting it run me. I need to run it. So that's definitely sort of a thing that I had to deal with. But they also weren't like listening to my parents and listening to like the questions and answering the questions my parents needed. The one benefit I did get out of it, 3 months after I got diagnosed with diabetes, I was back up getting some appointments and stuff, and they had a speaker come in that was coming in that night to speak at like an event, and they said, hey, do you want to go? It's a young diabetic from Florida who was a surfer, a national surfer, and he was going to talk about diabetes and how it helped and all of that sort of thing, and his story, and I was really grateful for that. I went, and that kind of inspired me to stay in sports, stay moving, stay doing active, doing all of that sort of stuff. And actually, funny story, kind of side note story, there's a picture of him holding me, and he, like, we're just taking a picture, and my mom was talking to him, and he got me, and I'll insert the picture, I have the biggest toothless grin ever. And I found the picture, my mom found the picture a couple of years ago now actually, and sent it to me and went, hey, do you remember this? So I found the guy on Instagram, and we kind of talk back and forth every now and then. We'll text each other, I'll ask him questions, sort of thing. But that was kind of the inspired to stay doing stuff. So yeah, I spent pretty much the year after getting diagnosed with diabetes in the honeymoon phase, where your body is perfect, everything is great, and then all of a sudden you start doing stuff and it went out the door. My parents never said to me, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this because of your diabetes. They never once said that to me. So I was really lucky. I did gymnastics, I did hockey, soccer, swimming, any sport really my parents wanted to. I was playing hockey when I got diagnosed with diabetes, and my dad was not coaching. Less than a couple months later, I think within that season for sure, he became a coach, because he was like on the bench most of the time anyways, checking my blood sugar, making sure I was safe and I was still healthy to play, and so he just became a coach, so it was easier for him. And he did that, and then he stayed a coach, he still is a coach He coaches my sister now. But yeah, so that was kind of the first year. My parents really helped me to learn my body and learn how to take care of myself, but also still let me be a kid. So that's kind of my story. Fast forward up until I started high school. So between the ages of 6 and 14, life was fun. I was a homeschool kid. I did stuff. I had friends. It was a learning experience for my friends, for sure. Like, learning that, like, okay, I can't do everything that they're doing right this second. It might take me some time, for sure. But I did do it, and I did work really hard towards it. I started high school, and that was a new experience. Having to learn how to do high school, how to learn how to do, like, everything. Because I was homeschooled, I was learning the social aspect of high school, how to function in a school, what the rules of a school are. Like, all of those things were really hard. And then you add on an illness on top of that, and that can be really hard and difficult. And diabetes isn't something where it's like you take your meds at 8 a.m. every morning, and you go. And every morning at 8 a.m. you take your meds, and then you're fine with the thing. It is, I like to call it a roller coaster. There are days where you're just riding and it's perfectly fine. There are days where you are up, down, up, down, up, down. There are days where you just plummet straight down and don't stop going until you're like, I'm gonna be unconscious in half an hour. Like, there are those days. So learning how to help myself through diabetes, how to help through high school was really hard and really difficult. I was really lucky. And I will do a video on what my helpful high school tips for kids going into high school, kids in high school with diabetes that are struggling, what I found really helpful, and what I use on a daily basis to help me with those, at least when I was in high school. My friends and I joke around that the first year of high school, it was like I was relearning how to walk, eat, like everything, and I just didn't stop learning. So I did get through high school. Fast forward to about a year and a half ago. Yeah, about a year and a half ago now. I started to struggle with teachers telling me I couldn't do stuff, and they really driving into my head that you need to let diabetes run your body, and they tried really hard to do that. I've been denied field trips. I was denied an outdoor ed trip. I've been denied going to get food when I'm low. I've been denied going to what I call my safe teachers. So there's a handful of teachers who they're trained to help me, but I feel really safe with them. So that was kind of a hard thing for me to have to deal with, and I find it really ironic. I was in grade 10, and I had a teacher in grade 10 teach me the bio unit and teach the diabetes bio part of it, and kind of teach it backwards to what it should be and how it should be. And in my head, I was like, that doesn't make sense, that's not right. 6 months later, she found me in the halls, and she was like, my daughter just got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. What do you suggest? After I saying to her in class, that's not technically correct, and here's why I say that. So yeah, that was fun. And then on top of my journey in my life, the other side effect that a lot of people don't realize about kids with diabetes, they think, oh, they have diabetes, that's all they've got. Diabetes comes with a severe mental health portion, or a large chunk of mental health, because we're living with a disease that there's no cure for it. There's no treatment there's treatment, but it's not like a cure to treat, or treatment to cure. Things like that. It's you. And at least in my case, I know kids that are younger than me that I'm kind of I'm more of acquaintances with through a school teacher. I have a friend who's older who I talk to in the States every now and then. Besides that, it's me. I am the only diabetic in my friend group. I am the only diabetic that I know. And so there's a mental health aspect, because no one understands you. it is you versus the world a lot of the time, and often, at least for me, I feel like it is me versus the world on steroids. And that can be a big part of it. Like, a big part of it is the mental health aspect of it. It is just you. There is no friend that really gets it. There is no one that really understands you. And I know my parents do a really amazing job of trying to understand me and trying to help me understand myself, and my siblings do an amazing job of like, okay, we kind of get it, but we don't get it exactly. But it's hard. It's really hard. And so that's kind of where we're at. And then on top of that, we're now in the middle of a massive pandemic, like a global pandemic. And with that, it's my family has been in quarantine or semi-lockdown for 127 days now. I've been in, my siblings, like, it's starting to loosen up around here. My parents are starting to get looser about it. We're technically in phase 3 as of today, in terms of what things are allowed to start opening that weren't open already, things like that. We still have to wear masks. I, unfortunately, will be in semi-lockdown until there is a cure, or at least a vaccine for this, because I am immunocompromised. And that's a whole other video as to what diabetes falls under in terms of immunocompromised categories, things like that. That's a whole other video, which I will get to. So it's hard. It's hard for me because I sit and think, I don't know what the next day is going to bring. I don't know what it's going to be like come a couple of months from now. I don't know these things, and it's really hard, and that adds the mental health aspect, right? Being a teenager right now is a mental health thing in itself, and then you add on an illness, and you add on the fact that you don't really get to see your friends right now, and you don't get to communicate how you want to. That's a really big mental health piece. So I hope you guys kind of get that, and understand it. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm very much an open book when it comes to this illness and what it's done for me and what I've learned from it. So feel free to ask questions, and I hope that this kind of gave you a little bit of like what my life actually looks like on a day-to-day basis. So thanks so much for watching, guys.